Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about something called variable scope. Now, in Scar and many other programming and scripting languages, variables have something called the scope. Now, the scope of a variable just tells the program where that variable can be used and seen. So, for example, we have already been using variables that have the scope of global. So they're called global variables. We just haven't defined them as that. I didn't say they were global variables, but we were using them. And so let's just recap real quick. If we just declare a variable called I and make an integer, we can use this variable anywhere. That's because it's a global variable. Global variables can be used anywhere. They can be used inside any procedure or inside the main loop right here between the last begin and end. So if we just had like a procedure set to print it out, let's say procedure print I, all right, and we'll just print it here. We'll say we'll convert the integer to a string right away, and we'll just print it. So this command converts I to a string and gives out a string, and then right line prints that string, writes it over here. All right, and now we're just going to define what I is. Let's just say I is 5, and we'll just print I. All right, so let's see if this works. Oops, there's a little problem. What's wrong? Oh, a little space here. All right, let's see. Okay, so we define I. We define it as with the number 5, and we say print whatever I is. Now, we can use I here and here because it's a global variable, because we defined it outside any procedure or function. Now, there's also in Scar something called a local variable. In most other programming and scripting languages, there's also something called a local variable. So what that is in Scar is a variable that's defined inside a procedure. So in Scar, you can define variables inside procedures like this. So you can say, let's say we have variable x called string. Now this is a local variable. It's right after procedure name, and it's before begin and end, and it has the same property, the same syntax as this variable. On this variable we can have more than one. We could say, string like that, and we can have more than one. We could say A, B. Same thing applies here. It's the same format. So, we can do the same thing inside here. You can define as many variables as you want, but they're local variables. That means they cannot be used anywhere outside this procedure. So for example, let's just use it first. Let's just split this up just to make it a little different. Let's say int to a string. We'll convert it, the I, to a string and store it in x, and then we'll just print out x just to make it a little clearer. Okay, and so let's run this. Should be the same thing. Okay, so we got 5. So you see how this variable is defined here. It means it's a local variable. Now if we try to use x right here, we would get an error. What would we get an error? Let's see. Let's say we said x is pi. All right, we get an error. Unknown identifier x. Okay, so the main Scar went through here, and then when it got to x, it looked through all its global variables and all of its procedures, and it couldn't find anything called x. But we have x right here, so why couldn't it find it? Well, it couldn't find it because x here is a local variable. Once it's used here, it's discarded. You can only use this x inside this begin and end, this procedure. Even if we had a different procedure, we couldn't use x there. So let's say do something. I don't know. All right. Let's say we just try to change what x was. We said x is something. Alright, let's try to run it. Well, let's still just delete this. Okay, so see we got an error on line 16. So we go to line 16, it's the same thing. It doesn't know what x is. It looks through all its stuff, but it can't find x. That's because x only exists in this procedure. It can't be used anywhere else. Now, make it a little more confusing. Let's say we did something like this. What if we said x is a string here? Now, this would actually work. See, no errors, and this works because x is actually a different variable. Even though they have the same name, they're both local variables and used in different procedures. So they're only seen in here. This x is not the same as this x. This x can only be used here, but this x can only be used here. They're not the same variable. They're different. Now, once again, if we just wanted to use the same x everywhere, we could just do something like this and define it here. X string. Now x is going to be a global variable. That means that this x is the same as this x. When you put something in it, you overwrite whatever the other one was. So this should still work, and it should still be 5. But let's see. So we'll print 5, then we'll overwrite X, and we'll say write line X. All right. So now we should add 5 and something. All right. So that's the quick overview of Scope. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and join me next time.